zone before joining. My name is Yi Wei. I've been a volunteer with the Red Cross for 16 years. I'm a mass care chief in the Pacific Division feeding co-lead with Mary. Several housekeeping items. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted tonight on our Pacific Division Red Cross YouTube channel. The link was included in the reminder email that was sent out earlier. I want to remind everyone that the only approved generative AI tool for corporate-wide use at the American Red Cross is Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. And as part of our ongoing efforts to protect the Red Cross, we're enabling a CAPTCHA challenge to prevent unwanted web-based bots and unverified external participants from joining and recording Microsoft Teams meetings effective March 30th. Your camera and mic have been disabled. We will not be using the chat functions. You have two options to get your questions answered. You can either enter your questions in the Q&A or raise your hand and we'll address your questions at the end when time allows. Please also remember to enter your own hours of volunteer connection. And with that, we're going to turn to Julia today to share with us to demystify the feeding reporting system. Julia, with that, please take that away.
All right, thank you. Just to let you know that I'm from the Cascades region, that little sliver of Washington that belongs to 90% of Oregon. And I've been with Red Cross 20 years and love everything about mass care. One of the things I want to make sure as we're going through this that you don't feel overwhelmed. The object with this group is to make sure that people have a phone a friend or all the confidence they have to do what they need to do. Some of these forms can seem overwhelming, and I want to make sure that you're confident with them. And if you aren't, please let your job director or your mass care chief, whoever you're working closely with, saying, I'm a little weak in this. Can you give me some support and how to help you with that? So please don't ever suffer in silence and don't feel like you are not capable of doing what is being asked of you. So next slide. So documentation and communication are your biggest things you've got to do to be successful. Use spreadsheets, put everything into Teams. And if you have to use Red Cross laptops, I'll warn you, we only have a certain window of 5 to 7 days to use that online version, and then it locks down. If you put it in Teams, you can continue to manipulate and work on it. You want to track everything you're doing and what you're doing in spreadsheets. So I hope you love working with spreadsheets. So put all that stuff into Teams. Okay, next slide. So here's some of the reporting venues that you need to consider. The operational planning tool, which is your 215. WebEOC, a lot of people still don't quite understand that and they don't have training on it, but I want to tell you, it is awesome. It's easy to learn once you get in it and figure out how to do it. So it'll help you with your reporting. And when they come up with missions and requests they have for you, that's all in WebEOC. Then the feeding tracker, when you come up with a purchase order with a vendor, the feeding tracker helps you manage that purchase order and the importance of the vendor packet and walking the vendor through that packet. And then new to a lot of people is the functional planning tool. They just recently rolled this out in the last mass care training that they had, that every group is going to have to come up with their own functional planning tool. But the good thing is they're going to have an information and planning person there to help support you in developing that plan. So let's start with the operational planning tool. Next slide. So this is your 215, as they call it. Basically, it's all your staff and your stuff, what you own. I'm sorry, this is a poor picture because it cut off the first little boxes there. Always put your first group is the county that it's in, then the address of where this is going to be taking place, your staff, of course, and then any of your other items. Track your rental cars because somebody's going to tell you you have too many rental cars and you're going to have to cut them back. So track everything you have. You'll go further along and they'll ask you to put in who your leadership team is and then a small description of what the job is and what you're asking that group of people to do in that situation. So it may be a team that's going to shelters and delivering food and serving in a shelter. It may be a team that's doing mobile feeding. It may be a fixed site or even responding at a mark and supporting that way. So you put all that information in what is asked you. This is the information that goes into your IAP, the incident action plan. That's what you get emailed to you when you do get on a job, and that'll tell you who your key players are and phone numbers and where you're going to be reporting to. If you don't get that on the job, make sure you talk to your supervisor and say, I'm not getting my IAP, and they'll make sure that they get it mailed to you. There's also another little paragraph at the end of the job description that says notes. It's always good to put notes in that. Those don't get printed into the IAP. Someone's going to ask you, when did you open this kitchen or when did you start serving in this area? Put those dates in the notes because then they're going to ask, when did you start it? When did you end it? And it's too easy to forget when those dates are. Put those in the note part so then when somebody does come and ask you, you know what you did and when you did it. Next slide, please. So the WebEOC and the mission tracker are, like I said, they're awesome. They're easy to use. This upper left one shows you what a mission tracker looks like. That it used to be when they first started out, they didn't tell you what area you had to go through. So I went through when I was in California 180 missions to try and figure out if it was something I needed to do. Now they do have it broken down by um, gap. And so if you're doing feeding, it'll say feeding, it'll put in the request. It's vetted information by usually your GovOps people or your external relations folks, and they'll put that information in there. Then you look at it, what the request is, and ask. You can accept the mission. You can tell them, yes, I can do it within this time frame. There's 4 different choices on the timing, or you could ask for more information if you need more information, or you can decline the mission. The first thing you want to do when you get on a job is send an email in to webeoc@redcross.org. Tell them the position you're in, and they'll give you access, and that'll take about an hour or so. If you're going to have an admin that's going to support you in that, ask for them to have it as well so they can manage your mission tracker. If you're on a busy situation, you may need somebody that's going to manage your mission tracker for you. Then the other little slide off to the right is your reporting structure. So you need to make sure that you click on it, it says feeding, make sure you're on the right DR first because they'll say the DR number. You click on that, then you click on feeding, and then in that blue box to the right there, you'll create a new and you'll go by the county that you're serving in and how many meals you serve, the date and the times. And then it also has a spot you can put snacks. Most of the time they don't care if you do the snack count in there. And there is an area to also put in shelf stable meals as well. And then that gets, you'll see the line about midway across that page that says approved. Either your mass care chief or your AD of ops will do the approving that, yes, that is exactly what you did and you said you were going to do. So that's the mission tracker and the web EOC. It is really easy, but if you've never done it, it is a little scary at first, but somebody can walk you through it very easily. Next slide. Purchase orders. So when you have a vendor, this will be covered in some later training, but I wanted to make sure you understood this part. Any vendor accruing more than $25,000 in charges has to go on a purchase order. So you turn in your 6409 and it has to include the number of meals, times the cost, the length of time in the description. And you know that half the time it's a guess. You can either make it more days or less days. You can always change and add to the purchase order. And then you send that through to make sure that it gets approved, and then you'll have a mission tracker form emailed to you, so you will be able to track all those meals and what you ordered against what they billed you for. And then there's a great group of folks at National that if you're struggling through that tracker or through any bit of this, uh, add them to your team's chat and allow them to help support you in that. And they will be there to answer any questions or any concerns you may have because they know those forms really well. Next slide. This is the PO tracker. So it shows you up at the top, it'll show you what the amount of the PO is. The orange part will tell you how much is remaining. So if you wrote purchase order for $300,000 and you're looking at it daily going, oh gosh, I'm down to 285,000. I need to add to it. You just put in another request to add to it. But this shows what you've ordered on your meals and what they bill you for. If those numbers don't match, they have to match before they'll send out um, the payment to the vendor. So make sure that your numbers match. If they don't, like I said, either talk to the national team and see what they can do to help support you in that, or talk to the vendor that you're working with, saying it shows that I ordered 175 meals, but you're billing me for 280. What was the change? And you can always negotiate what happened in that situation. Sometimes it's just a misnumber counted or whatever the situation may be. But this is a great tool to have and to use because then you can keep track of everything you're doing and it's all added up for you daily. All those lovely squares are all auto populated. All you just do is put in your numbers and you're ready to go. Next page. The payment agreement is really important. That vendor packet, when you work with a vendor, we try to support local community groups and caterers and restaurants that have been affected by the disaster. But they need to understand, and you have to walk them through that packet. Just don't email them the packet and say, hey, here's the thing, sign this and send it back. I had a situation happen with a girl I was mentoring in Mississippi, and she had two vendors that were out of pocket for $40,000 and $50,000 till they got their first check. They were having to borrow money from their church and their family members to stay afloat financially because they checked the box that says weekly and buy a P card, so they thought they were going to get paid weekly. When you're on these purchase orders, it's 45 days out before they see their first check. Sometimes what we have to do if it's trying to support a local mom and pop is pay them on a P card for the first week or two, then put in the purchase order so they've got some money to at least work on and let them be aware of the fact that it will be 45 days before they see their first check, as long as all the numbers add up properly. Next slide, please. So here's how you're going to track all your meals, whether you're doing them on a P card or however. You want to put how many meals and what you had, the date, always in the special instructions. So if you're, this is especially when you're doing on your P card, put the amount, the restaurant in the special instructions, the amount, whose P card it was in the last four. Because if this gets separated from the receipt, someone's going to call you and say, wait a minute, this isn't lining up. I got the wrong 6409 with the wrong receipt. This way, you spreadsheeted all this stuff for one, and this way they can match up. Because if you've gone to KFC, which this one says three different times, one will say $98.57, one will say 70.60. This way they know which one belongs to what. So always make sure you put all that information in the special instructions. It'll make life a lot easier for you and for logistics people that are making your three-way match. And then your other match, of course, is your 6409B copy that they did receive what was ordered and requested. Next slide, please. What do I do with this documentation? Yeah, see, now you have your 6409, which we're trying to stay away from paper copies. You need to forward it to whoever is approving, depending on the dollar value. It may not be your mass care chief, it may be over their head. It may have to go to ADL opposite, it may have to go to the job director. So know what their dollar value is on what they can approve. I had some that actually had to go to Brad because they were over $1 million, and he's the only one that could sign and approve 64 nines for that amount of money. Then you have a scan a copy of your receipt. If you have other people picking up food and picking up the receipts, threaten them with their lives that if they don't bring the receipt back, that you're going to make them go back and get a receipt, because that's a hard challenge for you in reconciling your P card. And then, like I said, the 6409B copy is the one that, yes, I did receive this, and it needs to have somebody sign it, say, yes, I did receive this, and it was with Mass Care feeding so they know how to track that properly. Next slide, please. The feeding functional plan. This is new to a lot of people. And what it is they have this, somebody put that in for me. The NAOP. I showed up on jobs before. I thought, wow, I didn't order all these people and all this stuff. How did it get here? National looks at previous history, the demographics of the area, and kind of does a plan for you to determine, okay, we see that they're probably going to have to open up 8 shelters. They're going to have to do some mobile feeding. So we're already going to pre-approve them 10,000 meals a day, 12 herbs, and 8 feeding SVs. So those are already ordered for you. And so you look at that plan and then get together with your team and go, okay, with what they're offering me, what are my goals? So they want to know your goal. What are you going to wanting to do to make sure you accomplish that? Is everything that they pre-approved for you, is that going to help you accomplish it? Your strategies. What is your plan in accomplishing that goal? Are you going to have box trucks to just deliver the Cambros to the shelters and then have your herbs do mobile feeding? How are you going to make that happen? So you make those determinations in your strategy. Your operational task is how are you going to accomplish the plan? Will this plan work out for what you're trying to accomplish by what you see? And again, a lot of this is a guess sometimes, but use all the resources you have, your external relations people, your information and planning people, your mass care chief, your AD of ops. Make sure you're chatting with all those, and they will make this so much easier. Then they're going to want to know a timeline. So you're going to want to say that, yes, we are going to serve 10,000 meals in the next 10 days and give the dates. And then they want to know your resources. They offered you 12 herbs and 8 SVs, feeding SVs. Is that enough? And what else are you going to need? And put those resources in there as well. The wonderful thing about this is there were a bunch of information and planning volunteers that were trained on how to support us in doing this, and they will be embedded in mass care. So they'll be right there with you, but they'll also be working with your mass care chief, your sheltering person, and your DES person, anybody else that's in that group. Your SRT group has to write their own functional plan as well. Next slide. Thank you. Braden was going to help, but he got deployed, so he couldn't help with what we were trying to do today. I did want to go back on the 215 slide. Yiwei, can you do that for me? It's way back at the beginning. Okay, what they did roll out in the training they just had last month in Florida is we have these lovely people that love to develop bigger and better programs for us. So feeding will actually have, when you fill out your operational planning tool, you will have 6 tabs at the bottom instead of just a feeding one. Once you click feeding, there are 6 other tabs on there. So you'll list your resources, which will be all your vendors that you're using. There will be one for vehicles. There will be one for your staff. Once you plug all that information in the upper right hand corner, there will be an ArcGIS. It'll map everything out for you on where you're at, what county you're in, and how you're making this happen. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to take a while for us to get used to that. I don't know when exactly they're rolling it out. They were just testing us on it a month ago, and I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but it'll make life a lot easier for us to track everything. And so look forward to that. You might be able to, since we are in the PAC division, and Carl Maskey is one of the main guys that came up with this little program. If you want to play with that, email Carl Maskey and say, can I have a copy of that tool just so I can look at it, see what I want to do to kind of try it out. I'm sure he will email it to you so you can see what it looks like, and maybe he'll let you know when that's going to happen. But at this point, I don't know when that's going to happen. So now, give me all the questions you have.
Thank you so much, Julia. Um, if you have any more questions, please go ahead and put into the Q&A, or you can raise your hand. We have one in the chat. Can you specify which response levels each of these tools or reports apply to?
Well, the operation planning tool supplies the minute it becomes a disaster. So once it's just not an incident, that is, it actually has a DR number that you have to do your planning tool. Your mission tracker, some groups use it prior to a level 4, but most of them wait till it's a level 4. Your functional planning tool, they didn't tell us exactly, but I'm sure that's another situation where it's in number level 4. If you wanted to go to the chart that has all the little forms that we need to fill out, we'll go through that. It's got all the blue squares on it. It's the one prior to this, I think it is. Yi Wei, can you go back one slide? So all these forms, your feeding tracker and that vendor packet will doesn't determine a DR level. It determines on the amount of meals you're going to be serving, the costs on that. Your functional planning tool, I believe, is a level 4 and above. And the WebEOC, some folks like to use it just so they got everybody acclimated to using it, so they will use it before level 4. And the operational planning tool is used the minute it becomes a DR.
Thank you, Julia. And which of this is a similar question. Which of these documents are always required and which are recommended?
They're all required now. The only one that you may not have to deal with is the feeding tracker and the vendor packet. If you're only using your P card to pay for meals, which they don't always like you to do because they prefer to do it on the purchase order agreements. So that's the only one that you're not required to. It just depends on how many meals you're serving and how the feeding is happening. The other ones are a requirement.
Thank you so much. And I do not see any more questions. And while we have some time, and I happen to be on a DR, Mary and Kay and Julia, do you feel comfortable if I share my screen with WebELC so people can see the live version of this?
Sure. Just let me add something else before. Again, I did say please spreadsheet everything and put it into Teams. You have to do that. Just like with the feeding, or even your if you're paying for everything on your P card, you need a spreadsheet of all your 6409s and a spreadsheet of all your receipts and a spreadsheet of all your vendors, what meal, who paid for it, how it was paid, what it was, because you don't want to find out that they've been having chicken sandwiches for lunch and dinner for the last week. You need to put all that in a spreadsheet, because if that's your way of tracking everything and making sure you've got all your ducks in a row, and if you have to, or you leave the DR and the person coming in behind you knows exactly what you did and where they can pick up and take off, and that's really important for them to do. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mary. You have your hand up.
Well, I think Julia just pretty much covered it. It's always a good idea to have some kind of feeding tracker, some kind of, you don't have to use the template if you're buying from local vendors and it's small, but boy, it's really important to keep everything in one location. So if you're using an Excel spreadsheet, what your meals are, who you're buying them from, what's the cost per meal. Like even on a 2 and a 3, it's very, very helpful.
Most definitely. And the other thing is, you need a staffing tracker, because they're going to ask you where they stay, what hotel, what room number, are they driving a Red Cross car, or how are they getting around? When's their first day? When's their last day? What's their day off? What's their phone number? Spreadsheet the world. I mean, just everything, because somebody's going to want that information from you. And it makes your life so much easier. And when you spreadsheet your team, you're going to look at that and go, oh, wow, I'm going to run out of people here in the next couple of days. So always 3 days out, you need to put in a staff request to make sure you can backfill all your team that's leaving you.
Thank you so much. I see a hand. Joanne Dewey, would you like to come off mute?
Okay. Karen, hi, this is Joanne. I apologize. I got to the meeting just a few minutes late, and I basically caught up with all the slides and what you were saying, but I did miss at what level on a DR are these responsibilities the feeding manager or the feeding, is this done boots on the ground or at headquarters? I missed that part.
These are all done. They've changed the name, so they're all called activity leads now. So it would be your HQ feeding activity lead that is responsible for this. They may want someone to learn all this that wants to go up the chain and be promoted to a manager. They might want you alongside as an admin to learn all this stuff. And that's the best way to do it. Volunteer to be their admin, and you'll learn this job as you support them and walk them through that. And that's probably the best way to learn it, because some of the pressure is not on you and you're learning as you go. So it's a great opportunity for you to learn all of our processes. And if you track everything, document everything, and communicate, you'll be extremely successful in what you're trying to accomplish.
So can I ask another one?
Sure.
So back to the boots on the ground crew, the feeding supervisor, not the feeding associate, but the feeding supervisor isn't technically going to be the one that's responsible. It's going to be someone at headquarters that's coordinating with the supervisor. Is that safe to say?
That's correct. Yeah. And
So
depending on
if
the operation, you may have supervisors working with you in headquarters, because you can't do all this on the larger DRs. And if you have a lot of IRVs on the job, you need an SV working alongside you to manage all the IRVs. So you need an IRV coordinator working in HQ. And even if you have multiple kitchens, you need an IRV coordinator each kitchen and one managing all the IRVs for all the kitchens in HQ. So there may be more than one person in HQ doing feeding. It just depends on the operation and what the need and the expanse of the DR is.
Okay, so we're talking fours and hires, sort of. But when you took the training, when all of you took the training in Florida and they're mapping out this new plan, shoot, I forgot my question. Dang it. Oh, I know. So you mentioned a good way to learn this would be to say you would be an admin, because you could learn and do at the same time. If you wanted to deploy, when we have a big one and you have your availability out there, how can you communicate that to the deploy person that you want to be perhaps sent as an admin?
So what I always do, which I think we all should do, you get an arrival roster on who's coming to the DR. If you're, hopefully you're there first, and not, of course, national sometimes sends you a team before you even get on the ground. Um, I will look at the roster and I will text them, because it puts your phone number in there. And when I determine that I see they're going to arrive, I'll say, welcome to the DR. This is my name and my phone number. If you have any questions, text me, and that's the best time to be able to do that. Or if you can pull up the IAP, which is our incident action plan, and find out who the feeding lead is and say, hey, I'm coming on the DR. I'm a feeding supervisor and I would love to learn more about going into management. Will you need an admin, and would you consider me for that? As the feeding activity lead, I hope that you sit down, even though they may have, depending on the DR, they may have workforce doing this big job induction thing. That doesn't count for us in our gaps. We should have a job induction one-on-one with each of our volunteers, so we know our strengths and who we have and what we have capable. You might find that somebody that absolutely loves spreadsheets and wants to sit there and fill out forms all day, and you have another person going, please get me out in the field. I don't want to do all this.
Okay,
You
you're
learn,
talking
you
my
learn by
language.
you learn their past history and what they worked in, what they enjoy doing, and you want to play to people's strengths. And we
Correct.
don't focus on what they don't know. We want to focus on what they do know and what their strengths are.
I love that you said that, Karen. Julia, thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you. Kim, you have your hand up.
Oh, I kind of forgot what I was going to ask, but so let's see. So the supervisor, the feeding, can you turn that down, please? The feeding supervisor at the shelter enters their meals into Skya, and then the headquarters feeding supervisor gets all that information and starts ordering the meals, correct? Or if we have like 5 shelters open in one area, we have one DR, but we've got 5 shelters open. Then do 5 shelters enter their information, and then it's up to feeding to get one vendor to deliver or whatever the meals? Is that how this would work?
Yeah, that is correct. So you guys at the shelter level enter what the feeding needs are. The biggest thing with that, and we're still learning that side of it because there was a couple little hiccups with the Skya feeding part of it. Um, but the biggest thing is that there's specialty meals. So we make sure that we cover people that have, and it's only for religious and medical reasons that we will change diets and plans, but we need to know that stuff. But you put in the amount of meals that you need at your particular shelter. Each one will turn in their own Skya report. And then we make sure that by what our neighborhoods look like and what our vendors look like on who's going to feed who. Some of the times we have shelters that are required to use a catering company that's built into that site. So we have to have them feed them. And then other places we will use restaurants or catering companies, whatever it may be. But your job in the sheltering part is only to have to put in how many meals you need and if there's any specialty meals needed.
And as far as the headquarters position, is there a database or something that we can, like, I know you are very busy getting big lists of our vendors and stuff. Is that something that is in a database somewhere where if we were ever to do your position, no thanks, then we would have who in this area, or you've already made these plans and the contract is out there. Do we have access to that information of things that you've already done?
That's what we try to do with the local volunteers, the LCVs or people that know the area and do that. We try to make sure I have a giant spreadsheet of every vendor I've used all over the country. And if I end up back in Baton Rouge or Houston, then I look up that list of, oh, I use these, 5 guys or these 6 ones, and I'm going to call them again and say, hey, are you available? We loved working with you in the past. But each community should have their own list. Each chapter or region should have their own list of people that they've used and give you that kind of support and help in how to do that. And I think Mary's got an answer as well.
Well, I just want to add to that, Julia, your answer is perfect. But that's why we, as volunteers that deploy to other areas, we reach out to the feeding leads in those areas. I reached out to our feeding lead, Jerry Geiler, when I was in Washington. She had all the connections. She had all of the vendors. So use your local, your regional representatives, your volunteers that are in leadership positions within your region. They're very, very helpful.
Well, and the other thing that you need to think about, your community that you live in. And if you happen to know a great restaurant and a great caterer, if you go there a lot to go out to dinner and say, hey, I'm a Red Cross volunteer. Have you ever thought about supporting this? Let your mass care team know, either your feeding person or your mass care lead know, because we try to do all these agreements and figure out who we can use and who can support us during blue skies so we're not scrambling during gray skies.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all so much. I recognize we have a few more questions in the chat, and we have a hands up. I'd like to share my screen, and I believe then that way then we can address our questions at once to see that what everything looks like. So first question to address, I think people asked where to find everything. So can someone confirm that you can see my screen, please?
Yes.
Thank you. So first question was, we talked about operational planning worksheet, which is 215. Where do you find that? So you will come to your one source, our friend, our internal Google, you type in 215. And once you come to 215, you will see third column, row says operational planning worksheet. So after you come down here, you would go ahead and click download. Gonna open this.
Actually,
Once,
I need to correct
yes,
you. That's if
yes,
you just want to look at it, see how it works. When you're in a
yes,
disaster, you have to use the one that information is planned and planning has put into Teams, or you'll be on
yes,
the wrong page with everybody else.
yes. And I will share with you again, right after this as well. So this is just a blank that you want to make sure you enable micros. And they will set up, they is information planning will set up, and you have the sheltering tab, feeding tab. So the one that Julia mentioned that you want to make sure you use the correct one, I'm going to use the current DR. I'm currently on a disaster relief operation, and I am the master chief for the Hawaii DR. So we have a group share. So what I need to do is I need to go to the share folder. So each DR, when you get on, when you're in headquarters, you'll have access to this. If you're, master admin or anything, you will have access to this folder. You would have to go to the current 215 operations, open it, and that
Anyway,
tells you that yes,
anyway, are you
yes.
we're still on the page. Yeah. Okay.
I apologize.
That's okay.
I
That's
will
right.
redo
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you
Now
for
we're getting there.
catching it. Thank
Yes,
you,
now
thank
we're
you,
getting
thank
there.
you.
Okay, there you go.
Let me back up. Thank you so very much for catching that. I shared my screen instead of, well, I shared my windows instead of my screen. So what I was saying is that when you're on a DR, you have a DR specific channel. I'm currently on DR 268. So when you come here, you'll see general channel and you go to the shared folder and you'll come, the general current 215 and you will see the 215. And this is the one that Julia said you need to make sure that you are doing the DR specific one. So DR specific one, we are using our current DR as an example is that we currently don't have any feeding operations in Hawaii because the Salvation Army is taking care of that. So on here, we only have shelter. And so we have Oahu shelter currently, and you have the required SV, SA, etc. on here. And let me minimize this. And if you scroll all the way to the right, and that's where Julia said, you put your leader's name, you put your assignments, and you put your notes. And Julia mentioned that the notes section will not appear in your work assignment. And you can put things as what Julia suggested, when did the kitchen open, how many more people you need, etc. So this is where you see this document, the 215. Okay, I'm going to pause a little bit and I'm going to close this. And I'm going to go to the other places where you can find all the other documents that we were talking about. So functional plan. Functional plan, Julia mentioned, is a relatively new to the world that know that how to prepare functional plan. So if you search functional plan, there is a document called Preparing a DRO Functional Plan with Template. So like what Julia mentioned earlier, your considerations, what to do, whom you collaborate with, and I'm going to scroll all the way down. You might want to close your eyes a little bit. So this is the plan itself, the template. I'm going to open this. So you, when I say you, that means the person is either HQ sheltering manager, feeding manager, functional manager, or the HQ master chief. They'll come in here to develop the plan along with assistant director of operations or along with information and planning team. And sometimes as admin assistant or assistant deputy functional managers, you might also get asked to do this as well. So I'm not going to go into details of all of this, but you'll see that, it tells you the timeline, the workforce that you need. the tasks that they're going to be doing, and if there are any phases, such as when you have the initiation phase, or if you're doing community feeding versus then you're going to switch to shelter and feeding versus you're going to switch to non-congregate shelter feeding. So you have different goals here.
Gateway, thanks for sharing that with people. And I would suggest, because this is new, to go in there and play around with this template, just so you know when you do get on a DR, you kind of have a clue on what you're doing. It makes it a little less stressful and easier for you to understand.
Right. And there is, let me see if I'm going back to there there is the part that, I mean, when you have questions, of course, you go to your supervisors, and also you can look at all the instructions here. Oops, I'm so sorry, my screens are doing weird things. That, tells you what to do and how to do it. I'm going to pause a little bit. I think I saw, was it Kay or Mary's hands up? Any of
There's
you
a
guys want to come off mute?
Kay is first.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's important to know, and to go back to Julia's statement in the beginning, we don't want to confuse or overwhelm everybody. So it's really important to know that these documents exist and what they're used for. Because if you're an AD of Ops, your mass care chief, you may need information to fill out one of these. So it's good for everybody, boots on the ground and supervisors, to know what's going on, what these forms are, so that when a mass care chief or a sheltering activity lead actually comes to you and asks you for information because they're filling out one of these forms, you'll understand why they're asking for it, and what they're going to use it for. You won't always have to know how to actually fill it out, but getting familiarity with it is really important. Like Julia said, go in and play with it. It's good for you.
Right. And we're not really asking everyone to do this one. I mean, we know this is, it can be very overwhelming, even for us looking at this, when you're in headquarters trying to develop this plan, it takes time. So, like everyone else said, be familiar with this. Mary, is your hand still up? I'm on a different screen that I cannot see.
Yes, yes. And let me just say, this plan is brief. I was at the National Institute in February, and one of the things that we learned from the team was be brief. This is not a narrative that goes on and on for pages and pages. So, if you're going to do one, if you're going to play with it, think about just really, really zeroing in on just the facts, ma'am.
The Reader's
Also-
Digest version, in other words.
Absolutely, Julie.
Anyway, can we call on Mike? He has been
Yep.
patiently waiting with his hand up.
Yep. Allow me a second to get to the correct screen. I have too many screens open currently. Mike,
Go
can
ahead.
you see if you can come
Yeah.
off mute?
Go ahead and start talking.
Still on mute, Mike.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm sorry, this is a rookie question. Julia said we accommodate religious meal preferences. What about a non-religious vegetarian?
Okay, we do have vegetarians and vegans. Those are our standards. But any other changes in dietary, it either has to be a medical reason or religious reasons. And so we understand and know the different religious ones with the halals and some of the other situations on how to feed those. You should know that. There is a document on one source that you need to read and be aware of that information. But if they just tell you they don't like onions, we're not going that direction. They can pick them out.
Oh,
Sorry.
Thank you.
It's about religious or medical reasons, and we have our standard vegetarians and vegans as well.
okay. Thank you. Debbie, would you like to come off mute?
Hi, tagging on to that question, we had a request for, not, it was halal, but there's a little bit of a difference between the Judaism and Orthodox Jewish, can't eat, what do they call it? What was my question?
Kosher?
Kosher. Are we
Mhm.
able to accommodate kosher? Because I know halal, you can pick around that because it's about certain meats that they do or do not eat. But kosher has a preparation process that
Yes,
separates out with dairy from. Can we
yes, we
accommodate
do.
that, or that's not
We do
accommodated?
accommodate that. And actually, surprisingly, a lot of our shelf stable meals now, we can get our kosher or halal as well and low sodium. So they're doing a lot to help us and support us on that. If your diet situation is extremely challenging because of medical reasons, a lot of health services folks don't know this, but they have the ability to purchase those foods separately because we can't always find a vendor to to do those real special meals because they've got some really technical medical reasons for that. So just let them know, yes, check with your supervisor because you do have the ability to support us in finding the food for this. Sometimes they have to go to a hospital and get the meals, or they'll buy them separately. They have funding on either a MCPC card or some kind of P card to be able to support that in our situations.
Is there a policy or something that you can direct us to look that up when the time comes?
I don't know where to find that, but I would look on the feeding toolkit and see if it's there,
Okay,
or check with your health services people that are local and say, are you aware of this? How would this work if I needed you? What would I do?
okay, great, thanks.
Vicky, would you like to come off mic?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak a little bit more to the question about kosher and similar for halal, actually. So observance amongst Jews and Muslims to the kosher food laws of kashrut and to halal um, it varies hugely from person to person. It's um, a lot of people who eat kosher and would say that they need a kosher meal will be fine with just a vegetarian meal. That they will eat vegetarian when they, for example, go out to restaurants. Uh, some will do kind of kosher style and have various, certain things that they will not eat, like pork or certain types of seafood, but they're fine with other types of meat. They generally won't call themselves say that they call it kosher in that case, uh, but also you will have certain people who have very strict observance of the term is following kashrut, following the kosher laws, basically. Um, and they will only eat food that is it has been certified or it's from a restaurant or a source that is certified as kosher, has been certified by a rabbi, basically. So my point being is, if you have somebody that indicates that they need a kosher meal or a halal meal, have somebody at the shelter or from your feeding team talk to those clients as soon as possible.
Yes.
Um, and you really need to know that could mean, like I said, a huge variety of things, some of which are easier, all of which we can accommodate, but some of which are easier to accommodate than others. And so, we need to know kind of what level of their observance is, what that means for them.
Yeah, I agree, Vicky, and thank you for bringing that up because we need to stay, it's always client first, and that's what we need with our shelter workers, that engagement with our clients to know what we can do to support them. Ask them, where would you normally get your meals? Are there certain restaurants that we can go to that can provide the type of meals that you need? We need them to help us help them. That takes communication again.
And can I say one more thing real quick?
Yes, please.
This is something that I'm working on in terms of education in my region. But for Jewish, specifically for kosher meals, and especially if they're strict kosher, they need to have food that has been, they won't just eat vegetarian. They need something that is certified by a rabbi. Chabad, which is spelled Chabad, is a good source in every town, basically. Almost every town, any town that has a Jewish population has a Chabad, which is a specific organization, and they often provide kosher meals. And if they don't personally provide kosher meals, especially for Shabbat, they will tell you where you can get kosher food for people who strictly observe kashrut. So it's a great resource to check in with. Just, you can literally Google, Santa Barbara Chabad, you'll get actually 4 different ones. But if you just email them, I did this in LA actually last year when we had a request for kosher meals. I contacted the local Chabad, and we were able to solve the issue that way.
Yeah, again, stay engaged with your community engagement people and your GovOps folks. Any of the, I call them the alphabet team because they all live by alphabets. But have them help you as well, because you may be overwhelmed with everything else, but they can reach out to partners that we would normally work with and say, hey, can you help me out finding this?
Yeah. That's just it's because it's a universal. Like I said, anywhere there's Jews, there's a Chabad, believe me.
Yes.
And they do kosher, and they know where kosher food is, and often provide it. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Julia. Are there any documents that you would recommend for a person to access in order to complete the functional plan?
No, I would just practice and just look at what they're asking, those questions. So when you are familiar with those and you get to a DR, then you might have to pull it up again and say, okay, they're going to want this, they're going to want that. Take some notes for yourself and just be familiar what they're going to ask. Like Mary said, we used to write this out in an informal thing because the mass care chief is, will ask you, what are you doing? And I, send them an email. This is my plan. Well, now it's on an official form is all it is. It's just be very brief, just bullet points. This is what we're trying to accomplish. This is what we're doing. It doesn't have to be a crazy involved, 3 paragraphs for everything type of document. The other thing is, please remember that we have a great group of people in our feeding PAC division that are more than willing to be your phone a friends. If you run into trouble with any of these forms, please call out for help. And the other thing is, the thing I ask, and when I'm mass care chief or AD of ops, is if you are struggling and are not comfortable with some of these forms, please let me know. I can't help you if you don't tell me that you don't know how to use it or you're uncomfortable with it. I can get you the support you need on the DR to make sure you are successful. I don't want to see anybody walking away from a DR feeling like they got beat up because they didn't know or it overwhelmed them. And we just can't let that happen.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any hands raised or questions.
Well, you wait, try and squeeze in the WebEOC thing then so you can walk them through that. That's the only downfall. I can't show you WebEOC unless I'm active on the DR, and she happens to be, so she can walk you through and show you what that looks like.
So can you give me confirmation that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm currently on a DR, and that's why you can see the web ELC, just like what Julia said. There are 2 types of web ELC access. One is steady state, meaning that you're not on disaster relief operation, that is regional. The other one is when you're on a disaster relief operation. And when you're on disaster relief operation, your access is specific to your role. So currently my role is mass care chief, and depending on your role, you have different boards that you're able to see. So the board that we're going to see, that we're going to focus on, is a board called FDR. So FDR is Feeding and Distribution of Emergency Services Board. So reporting. So let's take a look at feeding. So you will see that one thing that it gets a little confusing for people is Web EOC's reporting is based on county. So when you deploy out of state or to an area that you're not familiar with, you might want to ask locals, or you might want to check your map to make sure that you're including all the shelter accounts in that specific county. It's not shelter specific, it's county specific. So
okay,
for this,
can you actually
yes.
click create new so they can see how that works, please?
Yes, I was going to in just a bit.
I jumped ahead.
You're totally fine. I was going to do this one, then I was going to create it new. So you will see the state, the county, the service delivery date, and meals. So let me go ahead and create new. So the state, I'm going to use this example. I'm currently in Hawaii, so HI County, Honolulu County, so Honolulu. And in here, you can either click feeding or you can click DS, and you'll notice it changes when I click. So if I click feeding, it says meal served, snack served, and shelf stable meal served. If I click DS, it says DS household served, DS other items, and cleanup kits. So we'll do feeding. In the service delivery site, I'll say this is today. So it happened today. This is something that you need to be careful. You need to choose the correct date. Meal served, I am going to say that we served 60 meals because we have 30 clients at the shelter, and lunch and dinner is 60. Snacks are auto-populated. I don't need to enter that. Shelf-stable meals, that's the shelf-stable meals if you're doing anything that, those, what do I call that? That DLC gives you that you
MREs.
order. MREs, meals ready to eat, that you put it here. So we're not doing any of that. So then there are two types of approvers. One is the assistant director or their deputies, and the other one is mass care chief. And I'm the mass care chief, so I'm going to select mass care chief. And I'm going to select, I requested today, right now it's 2:55. I'll say 3 o'clock. And I will say approved. So after everything is approved, I am going to click save. And once I click save, now you can see that this has been auto-populating here, that you can see this has been approved, and all of those can be approved. As the feeding manager, as what I understood is the feeding manager does not have the ability as of yet to edit the counts. So after you edit the counts, after you enter the counts, if there's a typo or anything, let your master chief know or let your AD ops know that they can correct the count.
Yeah.
Most of the time that the HQ feeding manager will ask an admin to submit the numbers instead of themselves. Usually, you can do either way. So if I click and I can do edit. I can also delete as a mass care chief. Let's say I entered this by error that I did myself. I can go ahead and delete it to confirm this is deletion. So let's say that, HQ feeding manager, they mistakenly typed a wrong county or something, but they submit it. They can let the mass care chief know to delete that entry or they can correct it. I'm going to pause here to see if Julia wants to add anything to this board.
No, I just want them to see how easy that is. I mean,
Yes.
WebEOC is phenomenal. You can see all you needed was the state, the county, how many meals, the date, and then it goes to your mass care or your AD of ops to approve everything. And like she said, you can't change it once you entered in, but it is fixable if you goofed or needed to add something to it. So don't be afraid of WebEOC. It's wonderful. Can you show them one of the mission tracker items if you can find one for feeding?
Yep. Sorry, I happened to click on the wrong link. I mean, not the wrong link, wrong screen, but this is something that, we talked about earlier, that where the shelter submits their meal. Okay, so let me go to mission tracker. So this is our mission tracker. Earlier, Julia mentioned that, there's the mission type and the subtype. So, this is mass care, this is DS. We currently don't have anything for feeding related, but we do have for DS. So you'll see that it was originated by the Assistant Director of External Relations, and it was assigned to Assistant Director of Operations. And there's a time due date. And earlier, Julia mentioned that, the priorities, that whether it's 12 hours, whether it's long-term, whether it's immediate. So I can go ahead and click. I
Yeah.
can,
Oh, good.
yes.
I just wanted you to go
I'm
to the
going
edit
to,
so
yes,
they can
yes.
see it past that point.
Yes, so you'll see what the detailed description is, what they're requesting, and the priorities, whether they want it for 12 hours, 24 hours, 96 hours, a few days, who's the relationship manager, and who's the requester and their contact information, and the comment and updated. So, they accepted, ADF ER accepted, they put it on here, they or the location. 100 homes of DS items were distributed. I marked earlier as completed because we did distribute that. So again, this is a DS mission. This is not a feeding mission. When it comes to feeding mission, most of the time what you get to see is that so-and-so at what time that they requested shelf-stable meals. Those are the most common ones that comes into feeding or community feeding needs, etc.
And what
Any
you can do, because
questions?
you type in this, once you've accepted this or signed it or whatever the case may be, you can reject it. But if they're asking for, say, a pallet of feeder meals, that's probably something you don't want to do under feeding. You're going to go back and say, these are all your choices: assigned, review, accepted, need more
Right.
information. And you can tell them this really falls under DES and not under feeding. So you can refer it over to them, put those notes in there, and then that person that entered that and the people that requested it can see that it's a better chance to go over to DS instead of into feeding.
Yes. And I see it is 3 o'clock. I don't know if I can see hands currently. I actually don't see any hands. And I don't see any questions. Any last closing word for us?
My constant thing is documentation, communication. Those are the two things that'll make you successful on any DR.
Thank you all so very much. We wish you a wonderful day. We will see you next week, same time, same day, same link. And the recording will be posted tonight in an hour. So thank you all. Thank you, Julia. Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much.